Suicide is the second most leading cause of death in youth ages 12 to 18.
So teen suicide has affected me personally. In the past year, on August 20th of 2016, my best friend Peyton decided to end his life. It's actually the night before midday of sorority recruitment, and I got a call from someone, and they said, "I need you to sit down." It was about 11 o'clock at night, and they said, "Peyton just committed suicide." And ever since then, my whole entire world turned upside down. He was one of my best friends, and so there would be times I talked to him probably a few days earlier, and he was fine, but there would be times when I would not think it was real. I think I was like dreaming this, and I text him and see if he would respond. And I still have those texts from today. Like I would say like I miss you, like just to see if he would respond because I thought it wasn't real. So Peyton was he was the happiest kid I've ever met, and they like have this saying that they say like some of the happiest people are the saddest people. And I never in my whole entire life thought I'd be affected by this, be affected by death, be affected. I knew I was like one good day, but not at 19 years old. And so I didn't understand why he skipped a grade, he was going to Harvard or Stanford, he got 34 on his ACT, he was brilliant. And so do I think it was suicide? Or do I think it was depression? No one really knows. People think he was just at a place where he was down on himself, and then one thing led to another, and he just made a decision he couldn't take back. I think to myself every day that how I could have prevented the suicide. Every day, there's not a day I don't go without thinking about how could I have prevented this. And with just in a few days, 3 months is coming up since he passed, and so there are things like, well, I talked to him a few days before. Could I have seen it in the text? Was it anything I did? Was I just not there enough? Was he having problems with his family? What was the deal? But you just have to come to terms with yourself. Those are never questions you're gonna get answered. And so what I usually think to myself is, yeah, it probably could have been prevented. Me single-handedly. One thing I did in tribute to Peyton was get a tattoo on my ribs that says "Fight On," and a lot of suicide awareness programs and different like I don't know, campaigns. A lot of suicide awareness campaigns use the semicolon as like a thing that promotes awareness, and so the I in Fight On is a semicolon to just to tell others to keep their sentence going and not to give up and to pursue the fight, because I mean, once you never get to see that person again, you never get to talk to them, you never get to share the same memories that you used to with them. So I went and got that done, and also wrote a letter to his parents. They told me that would be a good idea to like tell them my memories of Peyton and like how much I had loved him and how much he had influenced me in my life. And so that helped me get closure a lot.
In the next 24 hours, 1,429 teens will commit suicide.
um, you feel just like you feel heavy in a way, and like there's like pressure coming in from every direction. You feel um, kind of like numb, and like on a deeper level you just feel like you don't belong, you feel worthless, and just like every little thing that you do, people are looking at you and they like know something's wrong and they know that you have issues, like they're like constantly judging you, and it just feels really, it's very internalized, I feel. But as cliche as it sounds and how overused it is, you're not alone, and it does get better, even if it's not tomorrow or this week or this month. You just have to live for those good days.
Considered suicide, and I've been clinically depressed before. When I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I hated my life and wanting nothing to do with the disease. So junior year of my high school, I snapped, and I got in a huge fight with my parents. And later in the night, I went out to my car and with the garage door down, and I turned the car on and I sat there for about 15 minutes, and eventually I came to my senses and I opened the garage door and I drove out. People struggle the most with telling people how they're actually feeling. You know, like with how society is today, you're going to feel like you're being judged if you open up to someone. The people that I've opened up with, I have became best friends with. I went on a retreat in high school with about 50 friends in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And one night they asked serious questions, and one of the questions was, who has seriously thought about committing suicide? And almost half of the kids stepped forward, which is probably the most frightening thing about teen suicide, is how much we don't know.
First of all, the Counseling Center offers free services to students to prevent things like depression that might contribute to suicide. We also see people for ongoing therapy to help them work through any issues that might be contributing to suicidal thoughts. In addition to that, we go outside of our office and do presentations, something called QPR, which is Question, Persuade, and Refer, which is a suicide prevention program. Unfortunately, suicide is the third leading cause of death for teens, and this is really tragic. I think it's very preventable, and I think we need to do more. I think a lot of families are suffering. We don't talk about it enough because it feels very shameful and embarrassing for families a lot of times to talk about. So I really hope that counseling and that we as a nation and as a university can come together and talk more about it so it's more preventable. There are a lot of folks who suffer from mental illness, things like depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and those really contribute to people being suicidal. There are also environmental factors and situational factors, things like bullying. I know we talk a lot about that, but it could be face-to-face, by peers at school. It could also be cyberbullying. Those kinds of things can really contribute to students feeling down. I think things like rejection, social isolation, family crisis, those kinds of things, abuse, trauma, any of those kinds of things can also contribute to folks feeling suicidal. I would encourage you to reach out, and even if you feel hopeless in a way, that there are things out there that could be helpful to you. And so I just would really encourage you to reach out for social support, to go to see a counselor or a religious leader, or talk to a friend. There are people out there who know what you're going through and who can be really helpful to you, so don't go it alone.